Welcome to Coffee and the Bull.
Hey guys, it's Mike and John with Coffee and the Bull. We want to say thank you all for taking a moment out of your day and listening to this episode, giving us a moment to hopefully bring a little bit of happiness to your life. I think the topic we decided to talk about today was just kind of when things they don't really go the way you think it's going to go in life. You have I'm not going to say disappointments, but you have expectations that don't fall through.
I think we identified it as the disillusions of life's grandeur.
Yeah, he wants to be fancy with his words or whatever. But honestly, to kind of stop beating around the bush with it and just kind of dive off into the topic. I remember growing up and going through school. Everything was always you were preparing for when you entered adulthood.
Right.
And
we summed it up about at 16 you get your permit, at 18 you're able to buy tobacco products or whatever it is, and 21 you're able to drink, and you have this. I'm about to be 18. I can get out of high school. I can graduate. Move out of house, and I'm an adult now, and that's kind of
what it was for me. And I know that I was by no means a bad kid, but I was your typical teenager.
I was a bad kid.
You were a bad kid. But I remember when my parents would get on to me, whether I earned it or felt that I earned it or not. It was they drop off some type of punishment or something like that.
Right.
And I remember thinking to myself, I can't wait till I'm 18. Oh, I'm getting out of this house. Right. You ain't telling me nothing. Like this is stupid. I don't know why you do this. And you have this idea of what life is going to be like. And then you go to your 18th birthday. You wake up in the morning, you realize nothing's different. And honestly, nobody looks at you any different. Nobody cares that you just turned 18. Honestly,
right.
Your parents do because hey, you're not necessarily legally their responsibility anymore. Their baby's done grown up and stuff like that. Like,
their job.
Don't get me wrong, my child, I'm not looking forward for him to turn 18. That being said, he's going to be,
Right.
And it's the same thing that I did. My parents did. His parents did. It was you look forward to turning 18 because hey, that's when I'm an adult. Right. The world will respect me because now I've reached that milestone.
Right.
And when you turn 18, you realize no, that's not what happens at all. Nobody cares. Right. And honestly, they don't look at you any better than they did when you were 16, 17, 14. You have more responsibilities from the legal side of things. You can't just go do whatever you want.
You gotta go, jury duty, all that junk.
So you got to do all that, but you don't get any more respect, and it's not downplaying certain things, but honestly, even as like a 35 or 25-year-old, whatever age group you're at, the people who come before you never look at you with any more respect just based off of your age.
Right.
I know that when I was 23, 24 years old. And I'd graduated college. People would refer to me as still being a boy, a young kid. And I'm like, bro, I'm an adult. I am 22 years old. Like I know what I'm doing. I bought my own truck. I'm about I think 23. I think we bought our own house. Me and my wife had bought our house. I think we were 23. Right in there, give or take. 23, 24, right in there. We had bought our own house, and so it was like, I've got my own house, I've got my own truck. Who are you talking about calling me a boy or calling me a child or whatever? And they don't mean any disrespect from it, but it's you always look at the younger kid or younger generation as being children compared to you, and that's it's the same concept as we always millennials got blamed by was it Gen X? Blamed millennials for the world's going downhill. Boomers blame Gen X because they had spiky pink hair and all this other weird stuff.
Right.
And that rock and roll. But it's and now I don't even know what generation they're on now. Anyway, it just gets stupid because each generation thinks the other generation, the ones that are coming behind them, are going to ruin the world, and that's not necessarily the case, obviously.
Well, not to derail too far, but it genuinely has nothing to do with anything. I have yet to see a mind frame based on generation.
That's any different than it used to be.
Right. It's just a mind
technology
frame based on
changes.
Society.
Right. The application of technology changes.
Right.
And so you'll have different things like that. But
to keep us back on track, because I'm the king of derailment here, and Mike usually wants to slap me halfway through an episode. But what I know for me, when I turned 18, 19, I was graduating high school, and like I distinctly remember my dad. I walked across the stage, had my diploma in my hand, and I looked at my dad, and I was like, he was not the "I love you, Dad." He wasn't the "Congratulations" or "I'm proud of you, Dad." That wasn't my dad. Like, he wasn't a bad guy, but that just wasn't who he was. And I remember walking across that stage, and I'm going, "Hey, man, you proud of me, Dad?" And he's like, "Yeah, so about that, you have 30 days, pay rent or get out."
Right.
And like I knew in his brain,
wait a minute, what? I thought you loved me.
Right.
Yeah.
I knew in his brain, like I'm going to teach my son responsibility. But in my brain, it was, well, I guess I better join the military because I'm not paying you rent. I don't have a job.
Right.
You know, like, but it was in my brain. It was, when I'm 18, I'll tell my dad this. And
Anna Kendrick did an interview. She's like, I'm still poor. You know? I'm not paying you rent.
Right. Like, I genuinely, in my brain, was like, at 18, I could tell my dad to screw off or whatever, and which I would not do if you ever learn how to use a TikTok, Dad. But he's a massive man. I'm
right.
Still afraid of that guy. He's in his 70s, and I'm still afraid of that man. But, like, I knew in my life, almost in his 70s. I had to do math in my brain. I'm sorry.
Right.
But I felt like, that's when I'm an adult, like, do what I want. And, like I showed up with a tattoo. My first tattoo was so stupid. It was Old English. It was 3 letters. It said Mom. And he was like, better scrub off with an SOS pad. I was like, okay, guy. You know how that works.
Yeah, thanks, Boomer.
Yeah. But no, so it was like, I felt like at 18, I'm going to be an adult. And quickly realized that I still live at home. I'm still in school. And Daddy don't care. You're going to follow the rules while you live in his house. And it made me laugh because we talked about it earlier. I joined the military. I go to combat. I come back from this, long deployment where we're doing military work. That's how I'll word that today. And I come back from life or death situations where my life is in other people's hands. Other people's lives are in my hands. I've taken lives. My life has been close, And I go to see my dad for 30 days of leave, and like first night I'm like, all right, Dad, I'm gonna go out in town. I'm gonna go catch some friends, and he goes, all right, see you at 9 o'clock. And I was like, what's at 9 o'clock? He goes, your curfew. I was like, I'm a grown man.
Right. How dare you?
I have taken lives, sir. How dare you sully my reputation as an adult? And he was like, at my house, you're gonna be in the door at 9 o'clock, or you're not gonna be inside this house. Like, I'll see you in the morning when I wake up.
Right.
I was like, okay, well, I'll be here at 9 o'clock. Like, and I was like, but at the same time,
I'm a decorated war hero.
Right. Right. Like,
they use that term loosely, but still,
loosely. But no, like it made me laugh because, like, even now, like, I'm a grown man. I've got children over the age of 18, and I've got children that are super young. And if I go see my dad, he'll look me dead in my face. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go run into town, see so. He'll be like, be back by 9 o'clock.
Right.
That's when the door locks. And he, my first wife, we had stayed there for some leave after some combat time, and I had told him I was gonna run and see an old buddy of mine who was a little bit further out, and he said, better be back by 9 o'clock or the door's locked. And I was like, Dad, I am in my middle 20s at this point. I think I was like 26, 27. And I was like, I have brought my wife and children to your home. And he goes, yeah, and they're not going to unlock the door after 9 o'clock.
Right.
Because those are the rules. And I was like, okay. All right, well, never mind. I'll wait till tomorrow morning.
We'll go get a hotel.
Yeah. No, we weren't. Military pay you good, but they don't pay you that good.
Right.
It ain't hotel money good.
So I know one of the things that, for me it was, hey, I'm going to graduate high school, and then I immediately went into college because at the time it was, the thought process that I was told was just get you a degree in anything, to make you more successful and all this other stuff. If you don't get a degree, you'll never be successful, and that's a load of crap.
Right.
But anyway,
you were a super nerd, right? Like you were like a valedictorian.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't valedictorian. I was in the top 10 of my class.
You were all the dictorians.
But it was I had a lot of scholarships to a couple different agencies, or not agencies, a couple different universities. I wound up not paying for the first 4 years of my college, I didn't pay anything. So, yeah, I was definitely on the nerd side. And I remember thinking, I was like, I'm going to get out of college and I'm going to be a success. Like, they're going to, in the same way that, the teachers wanted me in their class because, I'm doing whatever,
Wait, your teachers wanted you in class?
I was a nerd.
You?
I was a nerd. I'm not going to lie. I was a nerd.
The defeat in your face, like, I was a nerd.
Completely different than I am now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
but it was one of those things where,
teachers were glad when I said
I wanted
school.
people to want me to go to work for them, and so I remember thinking, I was like, I'm going to get my degree, and then all these jobs and all these employers they're going to fight for me because they're going to see that, hey, I was top of the class in school. I had great grades. I had this award and that award, and I was in the beta club.
Right.
Well, guess who doesn't care about any of that?
Right.
Every single employer in the world. The only thing an employer cares about is if you're going to make the company money.
Right.
That is it.
Right.
And
look, in the military was the same way.
Right.
Like I was in boot camp where guys were like, "Oh, I went to college," or I'm gonna graduate here as a this rank or this rank, and I'm like, okay, cool, and you get to your unit and they're like, what have you done? Like, that was a big thing in the military. Like, we had dudes. I know a guy. He had unfortunately, he ended up with testicular cancer right after he'd gotten out of boot camp. So he went into a whole different start to the military, and they did whatever they did, and he was fine, and he was able to come back to a unit. Well, the way the military promotes is based on your time in service and your time at the rank that you have. So he made it to a rank of corporal. And
without ever doing anything.
Without ever doing anything but books and online classes and stuff. Well, in a Marine Corps, that's not going to get you somewhere.
Y'all don't do nothing with books.
Right.
Who told you could read?
We had a book called Math for Marines. That was the book. It was a legit
it was like one page that says get somebody else to do your accounting.
Right. 1 + 1, and everybody scratched their head. But he showed up as a corporal, and I remember my corporals, the guys that had been in battles of Fallujah and real wars. They were like, who is this guy coming in barking in order?
Right.
And I remember him. He stepped in. His name was Jerry. That was his first name. I won't say his last name, but he was like, well, I've got you by time and grade. And I remember the two corporals I had going, let's see you do that time and grade. Let's see how that works out for you. Step up to the plate. And it's like, I learned right then and there. It doesn't matter what rank you are.
Right.
What matters is what you've done and what you've proven to the men around you. And that's life.
Right. Well, and that's kind of you kind of jumped into that a little bit earlier. That's going to be a spoiler for the end of the podcast. But yeah, that's honestly that it doesn't matter what certification or what degree you get or you go if it's you could be a mechanic. You go to whatever trade school class and you learn all the stuff. But until you actually apply it in the field, nobody cares.
Well, and it's not just applied. It's a length of time that you've applied it. It's the resourcefulness that you are, that people see you as an asset, not a liability, and that's one of the things that they don't tell us as kids, because they pump you up with this mentality that, oh, if you strive hard, you work hard, you do X, Y, and Z, people are going to fight to employ you, and they're going to be knocking down your door to give you a job.
And, they don't know your name.
Right, and that's the reality of it is, you got to strive to be able to push yourself to obtain what's required just to get in the door. But in reality, if you get in the door and then you sit down and just expect it all to hand you, you're never going to get anywhere. And nobody prepares us for that.
Well, you get a lot of guys who, and I'm saying this as someone with a college degree, you got a lot of guys who they'll go to college or whatever, and they'll get a degree in anything from basket weaving to brain surgery,
right,
and and they'll walk out with a kind of a chip on their shoulder, being arrogant as if it's owed to them because of they've been through whatever procedure or whatever certification or whatever that you should look at them for guidance when they haven't done the applicable stuff. And we used to have, when I was in the working in some of the plants out here, you would have engineers come through, and you could always tell which engineers had started were fresh and which ones had been doing it a minute, not just because of their gray hair and stuff, but how they interacted with you, because we were doing more of the trade skill work where you turn the wrenches, taking things apart, and there's a difference between doing the knuckle busting work and doing the paperwork on it, and you could look at theoretically this should come out this way. Well, realistically, you know, you got scale build up or whatever that's keeping this bundle from coming out of this exchanger that, you know, it's just not it's not working, and we got to kind of do a little ingenuity or whatever. And sometimes, you know, that was always interesting that you could pinpoint them, you know, but it's the same thing. You look at, you know, even with us both being in law enforcement, you look at young guys fresh out of the academy now, and I'm not envious of those guys at all, you know, and because they're coming out of the academy the same way we did, you know, full of piss and vinegar.
Right.
They're excited. They want to go. They want, and I'm talking about guys who want to make a difference. They want to take and do a good job. They want to go help people. I'm not talking about people on power trips and stuff like that. Like genuinely good guys. And they come out of the police academy with this instruction of, hey, when you step out on scene, you own that scene. Like you have to take control. Well, then you look at them, and they're you know they're technically grown men, but they weigh 145 pounds.
Right.
They don't have a lick of facial hair on their face. You know, it looks like they're 14. And you expect other grown men, 40, 50 years old, who are angry and drunk and belligerent,
whatever situation,
and you know, and just looking down on them, and it's very hard for those guys to take control. And so I don't envy them at all. But then you'll notice after several weeks of being on their own, after they get through the training phase, all of a sudden you see the public start talking to them, or you see their attitudes kind of change, where as they're dealing with members of the public or complainants or whatever, the way they're talking to people changes because they realize, hey, you have to earn that respect. You don't just walk just because you graduated from the academy and you know you got a badge on your chest and you know you get the keys to a unit and
you learned all the fancy lingo and the nicknames for this.
You know you got the 10 codes and all this other stuff, and you step up and you know you may look like you know squared away and everything, but it's all in how you present yourself, and you have to earn that with a lot of the members of the public.
Well, the problem I see with it is we have this thought process when it comes to developing people to being in positions like the military, law enforcement, you know, first responder situation, you know, things. And so like with the Marine Corps, going through boot camp, it was 90 days, you know, maybe a little bit less, a little bit more for everybody. And when you go through it, the first month is just break you down and make you feel like the lowest thing on earth. And the second month is a slow climb to building yourself back up. And that third month is just polishing you into believing that
you are the best.
You are the best. You are untouchable. And there is nothing in life that you can't, you know, crush, kill, maim, or destroy, because you are created by the Marine Corps. And in law enforcement, it's the same thing. We instill a false sense of strength, security, and abilities that not everybody has.
Right.
And we talk about this all the time. You have people who will graduate the police academy, ride with us for 12-hour shift or maybe an entire training rotation, and we'll know within 30 minutes to an hour of being around that one individual if they're going to make it, if they're going to be good at their job, if they're going to suck at their job, if they should look in an entirely different line of work. And to be completely, you know, transparent, there were several times where somebody would be put in my unit and they would go, tell us at the end of your shift if we should keep them where they're at or if they should move on. And there are a lot of people who rode in my unit that at the end of it, I'd be like, no, this is not for them. They will never have the confidence in themselves to be able to do this job, because in the military, in law enforcement, you can't go to every scene with the I'm fully dressed up and I'm polishing my uniform and I'm gonna walk out here and be the nicest guy in the world and everybody's just like, what a nice officer. Like that's not.
Well, you want it to be. You want it to be.
Right. And in a perfect world, we could walk up into scenarios like that where all hell is broke loose, chaos is everywhere, and we can just walk in with this serendipitous attitude, which wasn't good word use, and be like...
It's word of the day, guys.
Right. And be like, hello, everybody, I'm Officer Happy Pants. What's going on? And everybody's happy again. And so, like, for you and I, and another thing that we've talked about before is we recognize immediately a situation and the individuals we're interacting with, and we identify that there are people you can walk up to and say, hello, sir, ma'am, how are you today? And then there's other times where certain people